What's up, guys? Welcome back to WCS America Challenger League. We're covering it all this week as we find out who's going to advance to Season 2 Premier League of WCS America. I'm axeltoss, joined by axslav. We're currently watching Goswser versus Capoch. Capoch has got to make some adjustments here, I think.
He does. Two-base timing where you go to Phoenix to Colossi is not going to work against an Ultras rush. Let's see if he tries a different type of timing here in Game 2.
Understatement of the century, perhaps.
I don't think he killed a single Ultraless up until they tried to actually end the game and force their way through the natural, which of course was not great positioning for Goswser, but he didn't care. He's Ultraless.
They're Ultras, man. They're 2-2. They're beasts. They're mammoths. You're not taking those guys out.
No, you are not. It's the caveman versus the woolly mammoth. You got to have about 30 cavemen take down one woolly mammoth, and Capoch, you didn't quite have 30 troops right there.
All right, we'll have to see what happens here in game number 2. I'm proud to present your two players, beginning with the individual in the top right-hand location, representing Millennium and hailing from the United States of America. Currently up 1-0, he is one win away from advancing on in this challenger bracket stage to play Nest-T. His name is Goswser. And his opponent in the bottom left-hand location needs to make some adjustments in this best-of-3 if he wants to win. He's in a situation where he must win 2 in a row to advance on to the next round of the bracket stage, hailing from Argentina and representing Team Isurus Gaming. He is Capoch.
Daybreak really isn't the best map for that Ultraless build, so I'm not sure if we'll see Goswser do it again. Of course, the reason why is because of course it's great against the timing, but on Daybreak most Protosses will take a third base and macro up, and if you do that Ultras build, you really want to use speedlings to harass as much as possible if the Protoss is taking a fast third base. Daybreak's not a map where it's really easy to do a lot of speeding run bys at a third base. The Protoss can kind of wall that off, and if you can't slow down the Protoss progression, if the Protoss gets up a very large late game army, Ultras just really aren't quite as good.
Now I wonder what Goswser is going to go for here, because I kind of like the idea behind, no matter what your opponent is doing, getting that faster gas, just to get that map control, just to get that speed on the field. Now, of course, it's going to be dependent usually upon whether or not your opponent goes for that gateway expand or goes for a forge expand. Generally, if a Protoss does go for a gateway expand, you kind of have to get that speed out. It's kind of necessary so you can avoid the scary stuff. But again, we saw Goswser play very safe in the last game, even though his opponent went for a very fast Nexus, Forge Fast Expand. He still got that speed up, so we'll have to see if he makes a similar decision here, or if he goes for that faster third hatchery.
In the round 1 of the Challenger bracket, we saw Goswser take on Juan Singh.
Yes.
And he won 2-0, and one of the maps was Daybreak. And he did a very interesting build on Daybreak. He actually took his 4th hatch extremely fast. He went, the gases 3 hatch build, which is the standard opening on Daybreak at least. And then he just went up to 4 hatches, and he delayed his tech quite a bit, but he got a whole ton of roaches and speedings out and just overwhelmed the third. Yeah, very, very early.
That was a pretty interesting game. It was honestly very one-sided. Huang Sin was taken completely off guard. But we'll have to see what Capoch does here, because a lot of that came down to the positioning of Hong Sin's cannons at his third, and how fast he got that third, and how many units he had on the field. But Capoch could decide to go for another one of those 2-base all-ins, which he does love dearly, and they do work very well. He has perfected, obviously, the art of the 2-base all-in. So it's not too unusual to see these players reach into their back pocket and find those crafty ones. So we'll have to keep an eye on what Capoch ends up doing here. Of course, Goswser is going to be very on top of his scouting, making sure he can identify what his opponent is doing, making sure no probes are doing anything scary. As we see 2 Lings going to spot this probe patrolling at the third, and should be able to take that guy out, or at least
did he
encourage
see it
him.
actually?
Wait, I just assumed he saw him.
I mean, it was on his map vision, but if he wasn't paying attention, it was only on the edge of his vision, so he may have not noticed that.
This is dangerous.
And Capoch has noticed a lack of a third base from Goswser. Goswser doing the same opening he did last game, getting that gas before the third hatchery. And that probe is still being sneaky. It's going again to check on a third base. Will the Zerglings find it this time?
Gosh, Goswser so good, double checking this area, and without a doubt, he is going to spot that probe and get to target that guy down. So that probe should be returning home, and he should be able to make it. Of course, we're seeing Goswser go for an early gas once again, getting metabolic boost speed upgrade, and he's continuing mining the gas. So a very similar build to last game here for Goswser.
Capoch snuck out a second probe. If Goswser misses this, you could think, oh, he sees it. Did he? Capoch.
Yes,
Yes,
saw
he
it.
did.
Wow.
And
That's
this is
so good.
This was a very sneaky move by Capoch. Of course, when you send out the first scouting probe and your opponent finds it and kills it, often they assume there aren't any other ones out on the map. And if you can sneak that second one by and get a very early proxy pylon, I think Capoch was planning to do a mass gateway attack. And this is because he got the +1 weapons on the Forge before he built a tech build.
Yes.
So now he's going back and building a robotics facility, but if that was his original intention to go and tech towards the robotics, he would have gotten that robotics facility about 30 seconds earlier before getting the +1 weapons on the Forge, because of course the weapons will finish before he needs it given the tech build, which he has to do now, because without a super close proxy pylon, trying to do a +1 gateway timing is just not going to work.
You know, it's such a tough feeling too. Of course, Capoch being a ninja, getting that second probe across the map, just trying to sneak it into the location, but then Goswser just so good with the scouting, able to identify that, so Capoch hopefully is not affected too hard by that. Also, Goswser doing a good job keeping an Overlord outside his opponent's natural expansion, watching those gases, even sending another Overlord into the main base, going to spot exactly what's going on. 2 additional gateways from Capoch, spotting the sentry, and he should be able to spot that robotics facility, but we have a Warp Prism on the way, so he might try to do some shenanigans in his opponent's main base, utilizing a force field on the ramp.
Warp Prism before Immortal does indicate some desire to do harassment.
Oh.
Is Aura going to see all those gateways? He's got to not show the gateways. I don't think Goswser saw all the extra gateways being added in.
Right now.
And that's a big difference.
Yep,
he did.
Wow.
Oh,
bizarre.
A very significant error from Capoch, showing the fact he's getting all those gateways. If you don't see the gateways as a Zerg player, you're going to think, okay, it's an Immortal timing because he didn't see the Warp Prism. But now seeing those gateways that fast, he knows he can't get the gateways that fast and be Chrono Boosting Immortals out.
Yeah.
It's got to be some type of Warp Prism attack, or something is going to give it away. 1-1 upgrades are not going to be done, but if Goswser can find that Warp Prism, oh, he hasn't seen it yet.
No, he hasn't.
The third base is dead for sure.
Yeah.
But Goswser with the tech advantage, the layer almost done, 1-1 upgrades on the way. He can afford to lose a third as long as he doesn't lose a natural.
Yeah, still no Lings on the way. And Goswser just now reacting. When you're reacting when it's at your third base, it's not going to be fun at all. So Goswser are going to run all of these drones away. And Capoch is going to be able to deny this third base. Now, there's no Mothership Core here, so he doesn't necessarily have that ability to retreat. Also, he's identified his opponent's build, making nothing but Zealots here, which not only is freeing up gas to use on other stuff, but it's also pretty much the direct counter to those Lings in the Zealot.
The creep spread from Goswser denies proxy pylons very close to the action, but the Warp Prism will still be able to warp in units very close in. Mass Spine Crawlers coming out from Goswser.
5 Spine Crawlers, 6 Spine Crawlers, 7 actually there at the natural expansion. Capoch trying to hit before that finishes. Goswser trying to extend his life in this game. The Zealots wailing away at the spines. The drones are actually being pulled here to engage. Speedling's trying to do some damage as well. Goswser doing a decent job of isolating certain parts of his opponent's composition, but look at all these Zealots. This is pretty much a direct counter to this build from Goswser. Capoch is like, you know what? If you're going to make nothing but Lings, I'm making nothing but Zealots, bro. There's no Roach Horn here. So it's not like Goswser can go into Roach production.
Oh, he's trying to make Banings. If he had 5 or 6 Banings win his attack first hit, he probably would have defended without a problem. Of course, Banings destroyed Zealots, but unfortunately, they're just morphing now, and he's already lost almost all of his defense.
That's a great point. Goswser desperately trying to stay alive. One Baneling, actually both Banelings look like they detonate at the natural expansion, but Goswser forced to GG, and Capoch sneaking by the bottom of the map with that Warp Prism. Goswser unable to identify it until it was literally at his third base, and then Goswser trying to get those spines down, but nothing but Zealots warped in for Capoch. And now we kind of understand the purpose of that Banelingness, as far as that's pretty much what that's for. When you identify the mass Zealot play in a Warp Prism, you make those Banelings to try to defend against that. Unfortunately for Goswser, look at that, he has 700 gas in the bank, but he didn't make Banelings until much later on. Is this a situation where he didn't necessarily respect this push as much? Maybe thought his Spine Crawlers would be enough or something.
The Spine Cores might have been enough, but we saw there he had 5 Spine Cores all halfway done when the attack hit. Of course, that's a difference of about 15 seconds. If he saw this attack coming 15 seconds earlier, if he saw the Warp Prism as it left the base, maybe with a better Overlord Scout, then he would have had plenty of time to get 5 Spine Cores up. I'm a little surprised he didn't get the defenses as fast when he saw those gateways coming up.
Yeah.
I think he still thought it was an Immortal time. He didn't quite have it the timing down perfectly. Didn't realize the gateways were about 10-15 seconds faster than they would have been. Otherwise, if he had the 5 Spine Cores done, if he had a couple Banings done, there's no way that attack could have broken him.
And you know, there's another like interesting thing to think about. Of course, we're not going to look too much into it, but like the fact of his opponent literally put the gateways up with the Overlord and Vision. So maybe Goswser's like, that's a little weird. Is he just making those to cancel them to try to fake some gateway aggression? So I don't know if that came into play, but Goswser definitely unprepared for that very nicely constructed push from Capoch. And now we are currently tied, guys, 1-1 in this best of 3. Again, the winner of this match will advance on in the Challenger League bracket stage to play Nest T, the decider, coming up.